Welcome back to your favorite podcast. It's Hoop Therapy, brought to you by your co-host K-Sean, aka Killer K, aka the King of Queens, aka your favorite Tar Heel. And with me, as always, my highly esteemed co-host.
It's D-Chaps, aka Danny C. Pull up a seat back on our couch and enjoy some therapy.
Hey man, it's therapy without a fee. All we ask you like, subscribe, review, and go ahead and hit that follow button. Sit back, we got y'all.
Welcome back to another episode, man. Another week, another episode. More sports, more life.
More life. What are we like up to? Like 8 now? 7, 8? I'm losing count.
It should be about 7, 8. Yeah, I think it's episode 7 basically.
Hey, we're getting up there. Wow. 7 weeks of great content. You're welcome, people.
Time is
You're
flying
welcome.
by. And thank you for listening. Thank you for listening. Thank you for coming back, following, liking, etc. We appreciate it.
Right, 5 stars, nothing less.
It seems to be a lot of y'all like the fact that we're on Apple Podcasts, which I'm glad we're on there, and I'm glad y'all can listen to that. We appreciate it. So let's jump into it, man. I mean, we had our hiatus. We had our comeback episode. I know we jumped straight into the news for NBA right there, but to start off today, why don't we jump into some outside stuff, man? So much is going on. I wanted to say, I know in our later interview, we started bringing up, some Marvel actors in a brief second. So, we didn't really give a shout out to all the amazing people who unfortunately have gone. R.I.P. Chadwick, R.I.P. Big John, R.I.P. just the many people, big figures we've lost in these last couple of weeks, man.
Absolutely. It's been a somber couple of months, really.
Couple months, but the last couple of weeks it seems like things have been a little
hit a little hard.
But nevertheless, our outlet, our savior, our release in sports has been making its dramatic comeback. Last night was the first night of every major American sport being televised at the same time, right? We had the U.S. Open, NBA, NFL, NHL, MLS, WNBA, etc.
Right, it was sensory overload.
Yeah.
How many of those things did you get to check out?
Honestly, just some basketball. Honestly, I just got to catch the basketball game. I watched a brief second of the NFL. I'm not too big on the NFL. I got kind of got persuaded into joining a fantasy football league after I've took a break for a few years, so I thought I'd give it a chance. But hearing the boos, seeing the way they handled that, seeing fans in the stands, I was just like, what is going on? So I didn't really partake. I caught clips of the WNBA game, but last night wasn't really a sports night for me. Funny enough, how many sports were on. What about you?
Same here. I ended up watching a quarter of the Texans-Chiefs game. But, that was it. And then I watched the Lakers and the Rockets, and that's where my main focus was. I didn't even tap in on the U.S. Open as I wanted to, because by the time I saw Serena was playing, I thought she was playing at 7, so I was going to watch her at 7. I was all geared up. When they was like 9, and then I was in bed by like 8:30, so things was getting a little loose, but it's all right, I'm excited for more.
Good thing with sports is they keep coming, right? They just keep coming.
Right.
So one thing that I know we definitely missed, that I'm glad that the rumors are gone, was huge soccer news, man. The earth shattered once the public found out Messi wants no more in Barcelona, man. And that emotional roller coaster was insane. Premier League's back in a couple days, or actually tomorrow, no? Saturday morning.
Tomorrow, yeah.
So soccer's back. Messi stays. Griezmann's the new striker. Suarez and Juve? Yeah, Juve.
Yeah.
And Pulisic sporting the number 10. I mean, how are you feeling about soccer season coming back, and what do you think about your boy Messi not being able to be in a Man City uniform?
That was disheartening. I thought it was a long shot to begin with. If y'all don't know, I'm a Man City fan. Shout outs to him. But I was waiting for him to come, and I was like, nah, he not about to. And then it looked like he was about to, and then it was like, nah, he about to just stay. I mean,
it was gonna be too much money to get him to go.
Ain't nobody paying £700 million for the release clause. That's just ridiculous, especially in these COVID times.
Yeah.
So, maybe he joins next year on the free transfer. I think Barca should have got something for him, but, it is what it is.
I mean, 02, I think it's respectable to just say those MSN years might have been the greatest years to close out the Barca like legendary status, because without Messi, then they're going to have to retool for a little bit. I mean, but that pure dominance, Messi, Suarez, Neymar, was just some of the greatest soccer we've ever seen. And from that point on, I mean, the way that management came in, the coach, I forgot the name of the coach right now. What's his name? Bartomeu or something like that? Bartomeu or something?
Yeah, that's the
manager.
Yeah, like the GM type guy. I don't know what it's
Basically.
called in soccer. I'm a basketball guy, but
I guess you could chalk it up to GM, and he just
Yeah.
made a mess of it, and it sucks because Messi's one of those legendary athletes you would want to see be born in Barca, die in Barca kind of thing,
it's all right. Come to Manchester next year. Let's win the Champions League.
So what do you think about the NFL return, yo?
I mean, it was solid. I like when I was watching it, I didn't even hear like the initial boos and stuff because I had it on silent. I was actually watching the Lakers game. That dream was just on my side. It was on the iPad for real. So like that wasn't really my main focus. It wasn't like my team was playing. So it was cool though. From the time that I watched, I was like, oh, it's football is back. But it still don't feel like football is back. I was much more engaged into what LeBron was doing than football.
I don't get how they had, even if it was like a quarter capacity of the fans, but they had thousands of people there. I don't understand.
Yeah, because that joint seat a bunch of people. They got about 16,000 in there for last night.
That's crazy as hell, though.
Yeah, I don't know why they decided to go. I could just see just as fine from my house.
Yeah.
Right on the couch. I don't need to. For who? For what?
It ain't worth it.
Yeah,
it is not worth it. So yeah, all other sports kind of just begin to tread water and get their starts up and coming and basically catch their flow. With the NBA, now we're in the thick of it. So let's get to some NBA headlines before we get into some bigger conversations. So anything that's on your chest or anything you've seen you got to talk about? I know you're just catching up on this Daniel House thing, so let's talk about that briefly.
Oh yeah,
Scandals in the bubble.
Yeah, this Daniel House, and I don't even know if it actually involves Daniel House. He just seems to be the scapegoat. But there was a woman from who works inside the bubble. She came to the Rockets Hotel after hours, and past various security checkpoints, and she was led into one of the rooms from an anonymous Rockets player, and left in the morning, which was a violation of the bubble rules because although she's in the bubble, she's only getting tested once a week, as opposed to the players who are getting tested every day. So it's a testing. The NBA is real serious about their 0% having the Rona, so they're worried about that. But it seems like it was from reporting. Seems like it was either Tyson Chandler and another player, or Tyson Chandler and Daniel House. It seems to be a little unclear, but Daniel House so far is the only one that's been penalized for it.
Well, I feel like it's making the headlines because all other players are like DNPs, do not place. But it's either gonna be the least bit of a 4-day quarantine, max is like a 10-day. So regardless or not, he's not come return to the series. And by the looks of it, we were saying how we caught the Lakers game last night. Looks like that show's hitting the road. It looks like the Rockets balloon has been popped, the experiment's gone wrong, and the Lakers are kind of stampeding over. Do you see any kind of life left, or what's your thoughts on the series?
Now, I wouldn't say that the experiment was a failure. It's just not working here. But that's because you're going small. Other teams you can probably, if they're playing like, say, the Clippers, it might work against the Clippers. Probably not either because they got a bunch of wing guys. But if they're playing like the Nuggets, that it'll work against them. If they're playing the Jazz, it'll work against them. But when you're going small and they go small too, but their point guard is bigger than everybody on your team, it's really nothing you could do at that point. Last night the Lakers just, out rebounded them, out hustled them. Danny Green had 3 offensive rebounds. This man was just out there. I mean, I don't know what possessed him, but he was just getting to it. Rondo had 3 offensive rebounds. I mean, they just dominated them from first quarter all the way up to fourth quarter until it was about 8 minutes left, and then the Rockets made a little run to make it respectable. But yeah.
Well, see, my thing is like I get what you mean by like the place of being against the Lakers, maybe matchup wise that it doesn't work out the small ball, but I would say that the small ball theoretically could work against anybody. What I saw and what I said in the beginning, about rooting for the Rockets is like on paper it looks so great and it seems just like so mysterious and it just seems like it's almost so lethal and such a potent offense that it could break down anybody. But the biggest issue is like consistency. What kind of production are you going to see? And we've seen yet again like one of the most putrid shooting nights from James Harden, who has one of the most games shooting at like below a 20% clip, which is just ridiculous. Making a couple field goals as being, quote unquote by some people the best scorer ever. You see Russ just completely just a mess up and down the court. And it just begins to look like deflation, and everybody's sitting there not playing any kind of energy on defense and, missing a ton of shots. And you break yourself. You beat yourself. And, second round of the playoffs is nowhere to start falling apart on yourselves like that. And if you want that experiment or any honest lineup you want to put in Houston, first comes the effort. You can't just give up or can't just take lazy shots or play lazy defense, because you can't give anybody a slight edge in the playoffs, let alone some of the greatest players in the league.
Exactly. And I want to bring this up because Ron mentioned this to me. Shout out Ronald mentioned this to me the other day. He said that you were all behind the Rockets in the previous episode. He wanted to know how you felt about it now. Were you wrong? Or
Yeah, so like I just said, so when you look at it on paper and you're like, wow, James Harden at the top, you got Russ in the attack, and then you got these potent shooters left and right. I mean, I'm not going to be the one. I know I had my group chat talking about this the other day when we were talking about the House thing, and it's like, does House really make the difference? And at the end of the day, Houston's one of those teams that throw bodies at you left and right. Their defense is switching all around, so losing a wing that's competent like that. It hurts.
And you got to pay Austin Rivers.
Exactly. Yeah, and you're forced to play these people these other role players a little more than you should have, and their rotation's tight. So I mean, it was a loss to them even before this. It was like the ankle that was messed up. No, so I think that the Rockets had a chance. I believed, stupidly enough, in a resurgence from Harden and Russ, and when it came down to consistency and effort, they just didn't display it. Like if they run this back next year, I think they'll still get a top seed, and maybe we'll even question again, like what's the possibilities. But at what point does this become like the boy who cried wolf, and we're done saying Harden just needs a little bit of rest, or Harden's gonna actually turn the corner in the playoffs? Like at what point do the scapes go around to what Cassie comes in, or what injuries play, or et cetera, et cetera. At the end of the day, he's just not getting the job done. And, bad investment. I put my stock into them, and at the end of the day, it's just they didn't play up to standard.
You hear that, people here at Hoop Therapy? We own what we say.
Exactly. Accountability first.
We wrong, not like some other places on this here internet. Yeah. But speaking of the Rockets, what is their future? Do they run it back? Mike D'Antoni, his contract is up after this year. They lose. I mean, he's not technically fired, but he don't have a contract, so he don't have a job.
And it seems like Tillman Frittata, top, one of the owners of the Rockets, seems to be running out of some cake, man. He was running out of money, so
yeah,
they're cutting budgets, they're cutting corners.
He got most of his money from hotels and restaurants. So I mean, that's the one industry that is real right now. Right. So he got to pay Russ and James $265 million over the next couple years. I mean,
what would you do? Blow it up? Run it back?
And not to mention Daryl Morey and his China tweets earlier this year, which was almost a year ago at this point. Sheesh.
For real.
But I don't know. I'm glad I'm not the guy in charge in Houston. That's what I know. I don't
tricky
know if
boat.
I don't know if you can keep running PJ Tucker out there as your stretch five. Like, how long is he going to be good? Like, I mean, he's solid now, but you can see the mileage wearing on him. Like, James
Hmm.
is 31. Russ is in his 30s. Like, what are we doing here?
See, and
You
that's the
don't
thing.
got.
It's like probably some of the answers really relies on new hirings and new signings, and that's money right there. You know what I'm saying?
And,
So
and you don't got it because you're spending it on Russ and James. I mean, where do you
yep,
go from here? You went all in on a small ball, but I mean, you don't have a plan B. Like, the Lakers
they
could
don't
beat
have
you
their
because
picks.
right, the Lakers could beat you because they can go big. But oh, you guys play small. All right, we'll just shift Anthony Davis to the five, and that's how we'll win this game. Like, they have a plan B and a C and a D. The Rockets have nothing.
And I know, I mean, I put a lot of Lakers slander in, and we'll get to them in a second. But it's like they're small, gets AD at the five, and Braun still on the court. So you still have two huge players that are just way too high skill set. That it's like even if you go small against, if they go small, like technically they're still huge. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not like it's a drop off for the Rockets. It's like you're playing smaller guards and you're playing smaller forwards, undersized already, and then you're not playing a center spot. I mean, it's a cool concept, but I think they need more tool guys. Like the Rocco Robert Covington signing was great because he's another tool wing that adds another body, and then Jeff Green being productive helps that another kind of bigger forward be out there. But defensively, he's not the same, and you're not going to find a lot of guys in the league like PJ Tucker. So I don't know. I don't really yet. You're so spot on by saying whoever's taking that spot of figuring out like being Daryl Morey right now and trying to figure out which direction the Rockets go is a tough job, man. That's a tough job next year.
That's tough. And I mean, you got the Warriors for certain next year. You got Memphis who didn't make the playoffs.
You got
Sacramento would
all the
like to
fringe
be.
teams.
New
Portland's coming
Orleans.
back healthy.
I mean, Minnesota would like to think they're going to be good. I mean, it's going to get rough in the West next year. You still got the Lakers, Clippers, the Nuggets will be in there, the Jazz. It's rough. I
To
mean,
go on like a quick tangent, like swinging for the fences is just like so rough. You have to be so equipped for it. But I don't think that overhauling is ever the key. And that's why I think like maybe like if the Clippers don't have success, then they look in the wrong too. Cause it's like when you swing for the fences and you just surround superstars and superstars by trade, not by signing, it just dismantles where you are. And maybe it's the franchise that, you know, handles those kind of like superstar eras. But you look around the league right now and you see who's having success. I look at Boston, Toronto, Miami. You look in the West with, Dallas, etc., Denver. They're teams who found their superstar or got their superstar and made sure to maintain a timeline around them and assets around them and geared the right team for right now and for the future. You can't just blow it all up in one swing. Toronto built a sturdy franchise and they swung for the fences with Kawhi, but once Kawhi left, they were still left with their core team that they built. They didn't really leverage their whole team to make sure that they had success. And then you look at a team like the Rockets where they kind of went all out, got Chris Paul, and then had to go all out to get rid of him. And they got rid of Clint Capella to make this shit work. And now this was like their one shot,
I mean, I get it. There is a point to that, but on the flip side, why there may not be a future, like this is your chance to strike now. If I'm a GM and I'm thinking I got 2 years left on this deal, I can't think long term if I got to get this out right now. I mean,
So
because you look at the Lakers.
Russ was the one.
I mean, there was nobody else. They had Chris
Yeah.
Paul. Nobody wanted Chris Paul after last year. You got to remember that.
They
So
still
that
might
was
not.
nah. Chris can get traded after the season he just had. He can get traded, and I don't know how much he'll be able to replicate that next year. But he'll get traded somewhere. Milwaukee is what they're saying. But
Mm-hmm.
I it's two ways about that for me. Like it is, you have a point though, but I don't think that's the only way to do it. The Clippers method, it could work. If they win a championship, then their method works. Sometimes you just got to go all in. If Kawhi says I'll sign with your team, but you have to get me somebody else, you work hard and you do that. You just got to move mountains for some players. And if it's nice to build up and all that, but that takes time. You gotta have some heartbreaks and all that. But if I can get two superstars and instant microwave this thing up, and we in the finals this year, that's better than 3 years of building a team and you just might possibly develop a superstar.
But I feel like the Clippers were in such a better position to do something like this because of how they handled the breaking of their superstars in the Big Three of Lob City. I mean, the way that they handled moving out their existing stars and kind of getting lower talent and signing better deals and then leveraging those deals into bringing in that superstars, like they found their foundation through the draft and they used it as a token. They used it as their asset to get Paul George and then build this bigger team. You look at the Rockets and they swung for the fences with James Harden and then now have put together these massive teams around him that have continued to fail. They have had no assets really to build something as a proper trade package. Maybe if they had some kind of foundation beforehand to bring a better cast in, then we'd be in a way different conversation.
Well, see, they had enough to get Chris Paul, and then they had enough to get Russell Westbrook. And say what you want about Russ, he was still coming off 2 years ago having the MVP. So I mean, they had enough. They found some diamonds in the rough, and Daniel House, who wasn't drafted. They got Ben McLemore actually playing NBA basketball.
True.
PJ Tucker is a found money guy, even though he broke in with Phoenix. They traded for Rocco. I mean, they were able to do some things, but I don't think it was a complete failure because it worked to some degree. It's just James, it might just not work in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Just for
And
the
we've seen it
Rockets.
for what, like about the fourth year in a row where it's like maybe 5 years in, because this dates all the way back to that Spurs series, where it's like when you trap him up top and you force him in that little float game, it's like you can really play him off the floor. It's insane.
It's crazy. He only had 2 field goals last night, so I don't get it.
And it's just
But
like you're really getting double teamed throughout the regular season too. And I get playoff defense is crazier, but for 2 field goals, you're hitting step backs over like 3 people that are like 7 feet tall, like 50 feet off the court in the regular season. Like that should be able to translate at least 4 times, 5 times.
right, but I mean, I don't know. It seems like he can't get it done as the leading guy, so maybe he needs to move to the number 2. Do the
We'll
Rockets
see.
trade James Harden?
I mean, I seen a fake trade of getting James Harden back in OKC and playing with Chris Paul, and like the trade package would be like Steve Adams, Dennis Schroeder, etc., and then the millions and millions of picks that they have, and it's like I don't even know if Harden's worth that, and that's crazy to think that maybe Chris Paul gave you more value than James Harden because of how many depleted performances he's had. But I mean, it's yeah. So I mean, I definitely am looking at my statement of putting my stock into the Rockets and shaking my head intensely. But let's shift
Harden to the
into
Knicks.
ugh. No, that's where we definitely shift. So any move of the needle in Lakers thoughts? Where did you stand
No,
beforehand? What did you think? You thought Lakers in 6, right?
yeah.
So you're a game off there. Champions, what do you think? What do you think of this Lakers team that's coming out here?
You know, as for the Lakers, I mean, to me, they're still the champions in my eyes. I had them before the season. I had them once the restart happened, and I have them now. They haven't done anything to make me think they won't be the champions. How about you? I mean, I guess the only other team would be the Clippers.
I mean, for me, I watch the Lakers and I see, like, we were talking about before, where the anomaly of, Danny Green and Rondo getting their boards on the offensive end. And then you see Danny Green finally hitting shots. You see Rondo hitting clutch threes, Caruso hitting clutch shots, like, Kuzma hitting tough faders, Davis kind of finding his space under the rim, finally going to the 5, etc. Like, I get why you can put all your positivity into that. I can't sit here and give any Lakers credit. I'm a slander till the day that I die. So I see lethargic areas. I see problems in the rotation. I see problems in Davis. I see issues. So I think Clippers are going to give them their run for the money. I know I was Rockets heavy, but, you already know the Clippers intensely play defense, if anything. So I don't know that the energy point won't get there. But, to segue into Clippers talk, I know we'll keep it brief because this series is kind of a dud. I think that Denver is way outmatched. But one critique I have on the Clippers, which will stop me from saying that I think they'll be the champions of that side, is that they come to the game almost looking like they already won. And I get they're playing lesser opponents in both rounds. But when you saw Kawhi and the Raptors, you saw an intense team that, night in, night out, they were going to come and battle. They came a full force.
They were scrappy.
And you see this Clippers team, and I keep referencing them. They're almost like school bullies. They scoff and they, smirk and they laugh their way through quarters, but they find themselves in a lot of close games and blowing a lot of leads and playing a little lazy. So, if they want to win a championship, that kind of cute fucking, I think I'm going to win no matter what attitude's got to go out the window. But other than that, Kawhi is at a different level right now. So I feel like they could rally behind that, but that's really got to get dropped for this next round.
Yeah, you definitely can see that. They try to act like they've been there before when only Kawhi's got a ring. And Paul George can't play like small George if they want to win the ring. Yeah. I just don't think he's going to come up big at all. LeBron and AD, we'll get into our conference finals round.
One thing that, just to chop it up again is they beat Dallas, but I don't think they punked them. You know what I'm saying? That you saw a lot of shit on Dallas's side that was oh man, look at these Clippers, look at Paul George, you know what I'm saying? Look at Mook really not out there. Look at the bench not really catching up. There's questions, so I can't say that they're solidified. So, but I know we're gonna do a conference table where it's discussing these teams. So, they're gonna make it because I think they do, like I said, outgun Denver. It'll be interesting, a crazy battle for LA.
Facts, So before we can get to that, we have what is probably the best series of the playoffs so far, Celtics and Raptors. On a scale of 1 to 10, how nervous are you for Game 7?
1,000. I honestly, every time, because I know we recorded the interview earlier, and I've been kind of keeping busy on my day off, but every second I have in myself, I'm just pacing back and forth, damn, this game's tonight.
Yeah, I couldn't even imagine. Game 7, best 2 words in sports.
As a fan, how's it been for you? As an unbiased opinion, just watching the hoops, how's the series been for you?
My opinion, this series, it's been good, but also it's been quite boring to me personally, because I don't like watching the Celtics, and I absolutely don't like watching the Raptors. Oh my goodness, it is like a flop off out there. Marcus Smart and Kyle Lowry should win awards for how much acting they are doing. It is just utterly despicable to me. But
is it on the same? Is it on the same plane? Kyle Lowry and Marcus Smart.
Yes.
Are they the same guy?
Yeah, they are the same guy.
I don't know. Maybe it's biased view, bro. But I appreciate Marcus Smart's game 1,000,000%. But until this playoff series, I've always been Kyle Lowry underrated. Kyle Lowry brings more than you think. I genuinely hate him as a player. I genuinely do not. I hate him. I hate seeing him have the ball in the offensive end. I hate seeing him get ran into on the defensive end. I have so much disdain for Kyle Lowry now. It's insane.
I can see that.
And I'm people Spider-Man meme, this is the same guy. I'm this is the same guy? Am I really knee deep in the fandom right now that this is the same guy?
No, they're clearly not the same guy. Kyle Lowry is better. Let's be clear.
God.
Let's be clear here. All biased aside, Kyle Lowry is better. Marcus Smart's a very great defender. He gets after it. Shout out to the Oklahoma State
Kyle
Cowboys.
Lowry,
Go Pokes.
The only good thing about Kyle Lowry is he's got cool children.
Fat Kyle Lowry was a
loser. He's a loser, bro. I can't stand him. Oh my god. When he hit that turnaround on Kemba, I literally almost punched my screen. I was this bum ass, nappy headed, thick legged, freaking. Oh my god! I was yo, what am I watching?
Yo, I'm gonna take a shot every time he falls tonight. I might be drunk by the second quarter.
That's the goal. Oh my god, I'm about to be plastered tonight. I can't imagine. Game 7's go for Boston. The KO game, you remember that? Oh man, you remember that?
Hey,
Elio Olynyk catching the Boston Spirit. Next game, Game 7 was, the Terry Rozier Eric Bledsoe feud, which was just amazing. Watching Terry Rozier find some kind of spirit out of nowhere and just own that matchup and embarrass that fool and really exposing him.
I'll tell you what, Scary Terry wouldn't have had 5 points in 53 minutes in Game 6.
True. That's true.
And shouts out to Kemba, though. But,
But,
They played the boxing one on him. I wonder if they're going to do that again this game.
They can't because I feel like it's there's so many open threes outside and Boston's a good passing team. But to keep on the history lesson, the last Game 7 that we played was basically the Tatum birth, the dunk on Bron, the, lead all the way to the fourth quarter, being minutes away from a final.
Did y'all win? Did y'all win?
I mean, look,
at no point in that game did I think you guys were going to win. At no point.
But you got to remember when you're the underdog, like when you're somewhere where you're not supposed to be, each minute you're chewing up like, fuck, like we're here. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't expect anything of that playoff run, and to watch each game progress the way it did. And then when the dunk happened, I'm like, okay, that's it. We're losing. Like, that's it. And Bron stared him down, and then next thing you know, like back downs every single play, like shots left and right. Bron's coming, so no way did I think we would be able to handle it. But goddamn, the adrenaline was there. I was literally freaking excited for the Isaiah Thomas years, and there's no shot of five point guard's gonna win the whole thing. But this year I think we got a chance, and this year it was a little different because actually expecting the win sucks so much.
Yeah, I mean, y'all nice, y'all might make the finals, y'all might lose tonight. I don't know who I'm picking. I want to bet with somebody on the game so I can have some stakes in it.
Bet me.
So I can
bet me.
Care. But
$50 on the pod right now. $50 on the pod.
But that would mean I would have to care for one of these teams enough, and I don't know if I can do it.
That's what we like to call at Hoop Therapy, pussy.
Hey man, that means you put 50 on the Raptors. They don't have any scores.
The thing with Boston is they are incredibly young. So that is why they got a weak spot on getting taken advantage of. And we saw it in Game 6.
Yeah, they're young, I guess.
So that's why, and then Toronto, has experience and they have the championship pedigree, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's our fight to lose. You know what I'm saying? If Toronto wins, it's because Boston beat itself, not really because Toronto took it over. And if we win, it's because we dominated the game. And that's really what I chalk it up to. But I mean, I've been waiting for this matchup for so long because the Raptors for so long have cultivated good enough teams to be good in the regular season, good enough coaches to have overachieving success, good defenses, good players, hard-nosed grit, and you hear so much about it and you think that they're always so even. We're always fighting for the same seed. The year we were the first seed, they were right under us instead of the Cavs. This year, they were right there, a neck ahead of us for the second seed, and you knew it was two evenly matched teams. And then you saw Nick Nurse last year put on a phenomenal first year, and then come back and wins Coach of the Year. So, chess match wise, you saw this coming as like an even fight. So I was super excited.
The best coach, and then a pretty good coach. You got Basic Brad, and then you got Nick Nurse, Coach of the Year.
Nick Nurse ready to put a jersey on and everything. So, like, it's just been crazy. And the only thing that I really have to really go on a tangent about is the officiating in this game. And I know it's something that people drown and blame losses on and et cetera. But both ways, I think the officiating is just horrendous. And I think that, in no way, shape, or form should referees have kind of notoriety to them and be known by a first name basis for how bad they do. But of course, Scott Foster, Tony Brothers, etc., are known for making controversial calls, and we saw it in Game 6. There was no momentum allowed.
Yeah, Game 7s are usually rough and choppy anyway, so hopefully it's not a foul fest. It's the second game tonight. I don't have an official prediction. I just want to watch the game.
I like how we got the 9 o'clock spot too, because playing early always just has a little different feel. But getting to ride out the night with it's gonna be electric, yo. I'm hoping for just a pure Tatum game.
I'm hoping to troll as many people as possible. That's it for me.
Oh,
You better hope y'all don't lose.
I hope not, yo.
But I think that's good. We got an interview coming up that you guys should enjoy. Our contest winner, Big Steph. Hear a little bit about her and what she's up to in this COVID times, and we will see you guys back again.
Let's go, Boston, baby. Game 7. Catch, watch, everybody support. We need as many good wills as we can. Yeah, and then the interview is actually a pretty good one, so stick around. Thanks so much. All right, we're recording, man. What's up? We're ready to conduct this real special interview, our first giveaway, our first real outside of hoops interview, first for Hoop Therapy. We welcome our special, esteemed, intelligent guests, my girl, my future baby mother, newest UConn alum, newest killing it individual. We have Stephanie. Say hi to the people, Steph.
Hi, guys.
Welcome to the pod, Big Steph.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
So how did it feel? This was your first ever winning a giveaway, no?
It's the craziest thing because I try so many times to participate in these giveaways and I never win. And it's nice stuff like earrings and makeup, and I win a basketball one.
Nothing better.
Right. So, let's address the elephant in the room. Y'all saw the video. This was not rigged.
Yeah, for real. PSA. All right, so I'll give my side of it, and it might sound a little fucked up, but on first spin, we put the names all in the name generator, and thank you to everybody who participated. We really appreciate all of that.
All the love and support.
For real, we really appreciate the numbers we're doing now. We fuck with y'all, but we put all the names in a spin wheel, right? And so the name generator just puts the wheel and basically scrolls through all the names and puts one up. First one chops up, it says Steph. I call Kayshawn right away, and I'm like, yo, I don't know if this one's going to be appropriate, yo. He's like, I don't know either. You know what? Let's spin again. If she hits it again, then it's just meant to be. Do it again, and that's where the video comes from. Long behold, Steph twice in a row. I had to do it 3 more times. Make sure it's just random, but it went to different ones. But you can't deny that luck, right?
It was meant to be.
Right. And she tried to run out with just the $50. No.
Do I have to do it?
Gotta let the people know it wasn't rigged for real. So gotta have you on. Gotta show love to our number 1 fan.
For real. From the gutter. She was there for the mock tapes, the practice runs, all of it.
The unreleased snippets that are that may be good, they may not be. Who knows? They might see the light of day.
We're always good.
That's she was here, for our COVID run. But give us a little take on how COVID has hit you. You are a recent graduate in the COVID epidemic. You are a recent new employee in the adult world. So tell us your take. How's everything been? What happened? How did it feel graduating? Give us a rundown.
Well, yeah. So I was one of the graduates who graduated online via TV, which was different. I mean, it was all just very different. So the last 6 months has been crazy, I think, individually. But I graduated I after spring break we were sent home, so we did classes online and all that stuff, and then graduation was virtually. Then obviously just struggling through the job search, which I'm sure so many graduates are still going through. Which is difficult, on its own regularly, but I can't, it's already still so much harder during COVID. But luckily, I was able to find a job, which was exciting. So I'm super happy in it. And I'm working from home still. So still no conversation about going back into the office, but I like it so far. So I'm thankful. But yeah, that's what it's been so far.
That's good. So have you gone into the office at all, or probably just like a little bit to meet anybody, or how's that work?
Well, no, like I mean, I've gone because I had to like pick up mail, but
Mm-hmm.
I have not like honestly, I've met all my like employers as well as like coworkers virtually through like via Zoom. So I haven't gotten like a chance to meet anyone like in person. So the first time will be interesting for sure because like I've, obviously been communicating with them. So it feels like I know them, but I don't really know them.
It's
So yeah,
like social media
yeah,
friendships.
Right.
exactly. Like one of those things where like I do know you, but I don't really know you.
The weirdest thing that I've seen was just like I could never imagine like starting a job from home. That's like
Mhm.
full on training, full on meeting your coworkers, like full on getting your assignments, but like never really getting the ambiance of like changing your venue and like getting training as in like you have to call somebody's number if you have any issues rather than just walking to somebody's office. I think it's the most bizarre thing in the world.
Yeah. But I mean, making the best of it, I think obviously looking ahead, I look forward to like going in and like, just like really, but it has been difficult because like training has slowed down and things like that. But you do with what you can. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
So, as a UConn alum, are you a big UConn basketball fan, or are you just like, eh?
Have you ever been?
I have been. I have watched. I think I watched like I made sure I went to like one men's basketball game and I went to one women's basketball game. But not the craziest fan, I will say, which I know is like such a like you can't be a UConn girl if you're not like a basketball fan. But I do appreciate the sport and all that stuff, but I definitely don't keep up with it as much as I should have.
Hey, that's all right. Hey, you're like the casual fan.
Like I go every once in a
I
while.
go. I go if I have to. How was UConn though? I feel like UConn's one of those wild places. I mean, being from Connecticut, most people gravitate towards it because the way that they get the admissions done and stuff like that. It's just a good option for a lot of people in Connecticut.
Mhm.
But the actual location has got to be one of the most remote, kind of
Mhm.
just separated farmland areas with a brutal winter and just a vast campus. I don't know if you know, Kayshawn, they have buses, they have their police department, they have their whole, basically the city
Fire
of stores
department.
is just Yukon. So
Mhm.
how was that being in a farmland area, Cowtown, USA?
Cowtown. I think that like I'll always be grateful like to the University of Connecticut because it's given me so many opportunities and it was just a great education overall. But I do think that being like a first generation like student, I didn't put that much thought into like the location of the university and so what like how that would affect me as a student. And I do think that if I was in a different situation back then, I would have chose differently because it is like Danny says, like very remote. Like I mean, I think the nearest McDonald's is like 15 minutes away, which not to say you should go there anyways, but
That's a US metric. That's like compared to the mile. It's like how
like
much
that's how
distance
like
tell your demographics. Like
like
where's the closest
Walmart, you
McDonald's
had
and
to go like
Walmart?
30 minutes. Like it was just like it's far from everything. And it's so cold. Like it was so cold. Like I think the one thing I'm so excited about now that I'm graduating is to just not be in Wind City because it's so cold there. But yeah, I overall I can't complain. Like the education's great. The professors honestly are phenomenal. I've met amazing people there. But yeah, the location's tough.
Okay. Were you considering any other schools, or was UConn just like, we're going here?
Crazy enough, I really wanted to go to Pace.
Mm.
Yeah, which I wonder, I always think about what, like, how it would have been if I would have gone there. But it was a really expensive school. And
Yeah.
also, like, city living also takes, like a certain kind of person. And I don't know
Mm-hmm.
if like, like, I mean, I'm from like Norwalk, so it's a little bit of a city, but not too much. But then, like, living in the city probably is also a lot.
Yeah, and then that's not like, we went to St. John, so we were in Queens, and Queens is
Yeah,
like so much different than actual Manhattan.
Hmm.
Like
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
Queens
because
is like the
that
suburbs
Yeah.
it's
almost.
basically it's more residential, but being like in Manhattan
Mm-hmm.
itself, you can always I feel like if you're from not from there or visiting, for a day or doing something work wise or whatever it is, like as soon as you hop off, whether it's a train, get off the bridge, like etc. Once you're in Manhattan, you can feel the rush of it, and like
Yeah.
I can only imagine being in one of those buildings or moving day to day around there. I mean, Kayshawn, you know, like you said, we were from St. John's, Queens. Like, how do you feel the difference between being back at home now versus like kind of, I guess, New York living? I know you miss it, yo. I know you miss it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was probably even worse when I still lived at home. So, because when we were in New York, we were like on our own, just trying to, work and live and stuff. But like, I think about living in the city almost daily. If you don't know, I have a tattoo of Queens on my arm.
Mm-hmm.
If I could, I would move back, but I need to make like $1 million plus to live how I want to live.
Get you a nice 1-bedroom studio.
Right, and to those that don't know, I'll share this too. We lived in a basement in New York.
Facts.
Like, it wasn't the best of living conditions. What was it? One time the basement got flooded, and
oh my God, yo, that's a wild story. So even to chalk it up more for our broke college struggles, we split a 1-bedroom basement apartment between 3 heads. We made a 3-bedroom. We were in there like we were in the army. And
but
lo and behold, the million problems that come with living in a basement. One of the days, New York sewage is just always disgusting because of how many people live in such closed areas. So, lo and behold, sewage backup one day just ends up over flooding our toilet and our bathroom to the whole basement floor. Like, we was talking to our landlords about reimbursement for mattresses, clothes, like furniture, items of everything, but in context, like literally just a full floor full of sewage water from our front door entrance to our back door entrance, the whole thing, like insanity. And it's like the price you pay, But if you think about it, it's the common New York issue where it's like you pay a price and you have to factor in what comes with that price. Because we weren't even paying too much rent, but we were in a nice location, close by a school, you know what I'm saying? Like, and last minute and at that,
Mm-hmm. And, to make matters worse, we were on the basement of the baseball house, which was 2 floors above us. So,
And you guys still miss it.
Yeah, I still miss it. I still miss it. Yeah. Sometimes I wish I was there, for real.
So, Steph, you said you were a casual basketball fan, and, since this is the basketball pod, so what gravitates you towards basketball? Like, or when you watch, what do you find more appealing? Is it the players? Is it the story behind the games? Is it the games themselves?
Well, okay, so crazy, but I'm like the youngest of like 3, so I have 2 older brothers. So like sports itself and like basketball always kind of existed in my life, but I wasn't ever like a present watcher. And then it wasn't until like I started dating Danny, which I quickly realized that in seasons I was like also in a relationship with basketball because like during games, like he's just like full attention on the game, and so like I realized that how much he loved it, and so I started to watch too. And I think that was like the first time that I actually like started to watch the games. And I think like obviously like I mean I don't know if it's a secret, like he's a big Boston fan, so we would watch that, like we would just watch the Boston games. And I think like the game itself was interesting, like I liked watching it, like I liked the sport idea, but then like I started to really like the players.
Yeah, so to interject, so obviously chalk up to the huge Celtics fan. So I actually had the pleasure of giving her first in-game live experience. How did that change like the NBA perspective for you? How was your first NBA game live? Like, what was your thoughts before and after and seeing the game live? And give us your take on how TD Garden treated you.
That was like the funnest, like it was just such an amazing experience. Like honestly, like it was such a good time. Like we had great seats, so we were like right there. I felt like, I don't know, I mean it was my first time ever going to a game, but to me it felt like it was great seats because I saw everything. But just like overall, like the energy, like it was just like you would like stand up and you were sitting at the edge of your seat, and also it was a really good game. So I mean that was great.
We had gone to Boston versus Dallas in November's time, I think.
Yeah, it was around your birthday.
And everybody was healthy, so we saw, some Luka KP versus healthy Boston in action.
Yeah. So it was a great game, and just like, you were like yelling, and you were like, just like overall, it was honestly such a good game. And Boston won.
Yep.
Yeah, so
A
that was
close one,
great.
too.
Yeah. So that was like a really, really cool experience. I want to go again. Like after that, I was like, when are we going to our next game?
It's
But
crazy.
yeah.
We had and it's wild that Toronto's playing Boston right now in the playoffs, and it's been a crazy series. Such a great matchup. We had planned out in March's time, right around like mid-March, it was gonna be a real crazy matchup of Toronto versus Boston, but in Scotiabank Arena, which is in Toronto. So we planned a full weekend trip. We were gonna drive, catch Niagara Falls, walk around Toronto, do the whole 9 yards. We had similar seats, which were like, a few rows behind the hoop. So it was about to be crazy. It was almost completely sold out. It was day-to-day checking for like decent tickets because I didn't want to drop a stack on sitting courtside, but I also didn't want to spend $80 and be in the nosebleed. So it was hard to find tickets. We had the whole trip planned, and that game was supposed to be on, I think, a Saturday or a Friday.
Yeah.
Whatever it was, like 3 days before is when Adam
Right.
Silver came out, was like, yeah, NBA season has been suspended. Like,
we had to like cancel our bookings and everything. We were literally about to leave. Like,
yeah, that was gonna be crazy because Scotiabank, Toronto gets live.
Toronto, Jurassic Park.
Yeah, they get crazy. So I was super excited for it, but yeah.
So I guess to answer, like to go back to your question, like the sport itself is awesome, but I do think that like I gravitate mostly like to the players. Just like I really enjoy like seeing them like play, and like especially some players, like I don't know why, like I feel like I know them like when they're playing. like obviously like I'm a big Kemba fan, and like he's just like always smiling when he's playing, like ear to ear, and so like I don't know, just like I enjoy that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm glad that you're into basketball. I'm upset that Danny has corrupted your brain into liking the Celtics. But that's all right. We can work on that. But that's interesting because a lot of people talk about the game and they talk about what the casual fans want and don't want, and it just seems that you like actually like the game after watching it. And I think that's something like the NBA should take note of and just put the games on. Like people want to watch. If you just give people a chance, and then if you always experience it live, like you're going to fall in love. It's hard not to. So I imagine the next game you go to, you're going to be full heckling the other team.
I think that like, we were just talking about that the other day because I think the NBA, like, obviously the sport itself, like you guys talk about the logistics of it, and like, I always hear, which I don't know too much, but like all the fouls and like all the 3-pointers and like all that stuff, and like that's, obviously great, but I think like it's true, like the NBA doesn't really like acknowledge too much like how much people do gravitate to the players, and just in itself, like that brings in audience, and even like I think like a larger female audience too.
Well, yeah. So when we were about to, hop on the pod, Steph was definitely like kind of like wondering because she didn't want to hop on here talking about this, that, and the third. Definitely wanted to keep it related to basketball. So the first thing that came to mind was like how like she fell in love with the sport, or I wouldn't say fall in love yet. I don't know if you could chalk it up to that yet, but basically saying how like she would put herself in the casual fan audience, and one thing that she feels like she sees more than not is like the media of families or kids or players, etc. And as basketball fans know, and those who don't, we're in the quote unquote player empowerment era where players' brands and players' likelihood is more known than the actual skill set they have. And so one thing we were just thinking about was like how to gravitate towards maybe the audience of women or families or casual fans, and how to gravitate to that. So like give us what you think, like how that media, like I was saying, of the actual players themselves versus the sport actually helps the brand of NBA.
Like I think in itself, like right, the NBA has like a culture, and I think that like obviously culture is like such a word that's being thrown around right now, but like it does have like an identity on its own. But I think that it's like important to note that each player's identity, like each player itself also adds into that culture, right? So like for example, like each player brings in their own, like I hate to say it, but too like their own drama and their families and their kids, and like a lot of people follow like their Instagrams and keep up with their shoe deals and like all
I
those.
think the NBA has to be one of the most dramatic sports in the world, so you're not wrong there.
Yeah, I mean in itself, right? But so I think that that's like a big part is like you know, a lot of the times people just gravitate to these players and like they know like I mean like just to give an example, like, you know, we watch Tatum all the time, but like every time we watch a game, they always zoom into Deuce, right? And so he's always like there, like front and center, and he's so cute and like so it's like I follow him because I want to see his little boy. You know, so it's like all those stuff like I think that like they in itself like the players I mean bring so much to like the NBA, and I don't think that's like acknowledged enough, you know? Like I think just we should, you know, it should be like more of a conversation about like how like the players really do like bring in a huge audience because of just their lives.
Right. It's like the YouTube being, I think, and that trying to, I don't know what I'm saying, but like how YouTube celebrities become, you know, you follow day in the life. That's sort of
Oh
how like
yeah.
the NBA, the YouTuberify. So, some word I was trying to make up in my head.
I get what you mean. Like, you know, going with the family route, because a lot of them, even if it's not focused on that in the beginning, later on at some point they do vlog like their day-to-day lives and include their families, and it becomes like you follow the person rather than the content. And like, so it's crazy to see that, like, you know, that is a market that's gravitated towards, and I think that the NBA is put in a position where it's a very kind of detailed sport. It's fast-paced, it's constant scoring, it's a ton of players, it's a ton of different kind of styles of play, positions, etc. So in terms of like expertise, it's hard to really follow along so many logistics of the game. And I think they're stuck in a position where it's like, do we want to be more of that? Do we want the advanced fan to be drawn in, or do we want the casual fan? And I think every commentator has, when they see a live game, they have a personal story. Like, you know, when we watch the games, a lot of people, like she just said, you know, speak about Kemba's like personality. You know, if it's a Washington, you know, Boston game, like you see them always talk about Beal and Tatum's relationship. Like they always bring up that personable side, and it's always a good soundbite for people who like maybe are from a certain area or like a certain person, etc. And I think that's definitely expandable, because then the more casual fans, the more people are watching, you know?
But that's true. Like, how would you feel, like you being such a basketball fan and like so into like the logistics, if you kept hearing like these personal stories, it probably would, you know, push you away.
I see. The thing is that, like, regardless of not the sport itself is going to be played, and there's like a niche market for like where that advanced talk happens. It happens through Twitter constantly. That's where like I feel like the most honestly detailed and like, you know, advanced conversations happen no matter what. Even if we wanted to get the best commentators, players, etc., like to be about like an advanced league, there will still be a more refined product outside of it. So I wouldn't really mind something that's diluted. I mean, TNT kind of went the route throughout the year because they have Inside the NBA, where it's Ernie, Shaq, you know, Charles Barkley, and half the time they're talking maybe basketball, but the other half they're just goofing around talking about a bunch of nonsense. And those kind of theatrics kind of gravitate people, so they went a different route, and they had the show with the guy from Bleacher Report, I think it is. What's his name? Adam Lefkoe, and Dwayne Wade, and a women's basketball player. I can't remember which one they have on
Candace
Parker.
CP3.
Yeah. Candace Parker, which is a huge one of the best players in the WNBA, but also a huge social activist and a huge public figure.
Wow.
She's on a lot of and shout out to the light skinned women.
Shout out to the dark skinned women too. You know, don't want to forget about them.
And shout out to Steph. She's very beautiful.
Thank you.
So like, you know, that kind of route, they do a lot of social media on that show. They do a lot of more talking about the outfits, more talking about the viral videos, etc.
Yeah.
And it has its popularity. And I can't say that I mind that. I mean, obviously I see it's different.
Right.
But I can't say they do these things where they had these commentating games called I'm drawing a blank. What was it called, Keyshawn, where they had the players only.
Players only? Yeah.
Players only, where they had old players try to come on and, you know, talk about the game and talk about what players are running, talk about etc. You know, actual basketball players talking basketball. And it was roadkill. It was not worth it. You wanted to pass by, you want to mute your TV. Oh, wow. It wasn't the same, because at the end of the day, you don't want too much of that. So it's like, right. I wouldn't feel bad about it going that other route. If it brings in an audience, I want a popular and, you know, booming product to watch. So
yeah, I do think that would, I mean, I can't speak obviously for all women, because I'm sure there are plenty of women that also really do gravitate to like the logistic part of basketball. But I do think just from like women that I know, like I feel like they're so interested in even like, the players' physical appearance, which, like that's in itself, but also just like, the drama that comes behind them and like all that stuff. And like, you're right, like, the outfits and like what they wore and like, because that happens. Like I know like the Boston Instagram, they post like what the players are wearing when they come into practice, or at least beforehand. Um, so I do think that would bring in like a huge audience from people who are like more casual watchers.
I can imagine what those Celtics players be wearing. Yeah.
They're all Jordan guys, so they're dripped out.
Yeah,
Sachi
most of them.
Jordan's on deck. So to shift the conversation, interesting perspective I want to get for both of you, because I know Kayshawn, you're a huge fan. What's your thoughts on like the WNBA? Obviously, we're talking about gravitating like women audiences, and we're talking about just bringing in like more casual fans. That's a league where obviously women, B, they're kind of struggling with the product that they have, but they are at the forefront of social activism, which a lot of people are looking at the NBA like, wow, like look at what they're doing. They're going on strike. They're being public figures, etc. But the WNBA is always the first and always the strongest behind their opinion. They have amazing players, amazing talent, top to end. And like we said, they're starting to do social media ventures in the NBA, and some of them are not playing and taking media careers, etc. So it's definitely what we think is going on in the NBA at like a smaller scale, because they're just not as popular. But it's a weird thing. So Kayshawn, obviously tell me first, since you're a huge WNBA guy. Shout out to the Mystics, and then
Yeah.
Steph. After that, give us your thoughts on what you think of the NBA, etc. So, Kay, what's your thoughts?
So as you say, I love the W. I'm still waiting on my orange hoodie. First of all, so
Yeah, me too.
if that's shipping, go ahead and slide me one of those.
They
I
have
just
Steph's kind of confused. They have just an orange WNBA logo hoodie, which has been a popular item because it's like merch going out, just showing support for the women. So
Oh.
everybody is
and they got some fire sweatpants that they not trying to sell.
Oh.
I have to
NBA
mention.
merch.
Yeah, their merch is fire right now. But I love the game. I love the players. I asked Steph about UConn, basketball before, but I watched pretty much all their women's basketball games. I guess for me, it really just started from my love of basketball, and then I would watch a lot of college games. And shout out to Bria Hartley, because she was probably my first crush, and she went to UConn, and then she was there when I was at St. John's, so I actually got to see her play and all that. But and then I just like kind of grew into the WNBA. The Mystics are good. There's
Real good.
There's great players. Right. You got Candace Parker, Maya Moore, who's probably one of the greatest humans alive. It's just the game, and they can hoop. Like they get out there and they hoop. I'd watch it all throughout college, and a lot of people would joke and say this and that, but I'd be sitting right there watching WNBA games while everybody's trying to watch baseball or football or something. I'm like, bro, I'm trying to watch
hoops on.
Right, it's hoops and it's women. Like, I mean, these are two things that I love. Period. So I don't know where the disconnect is. Like to me, this makes the perfect sense in the world, and they just hoop, they ball out. So shouts out to them. WNBA playoffs actually start next week, so look out for that. They're doing an interesting thing. During the finals, one of the Sundays, it's going to be a WNBA game at 3, and then the NBA finals later at 7. So I think that's cool how they doubling up and just trying to boost the viewership of both, really.
A little opening act. So, like we said, obviously, you're a casual fan of basketball, just gravitating towards learning it. Like, what's your perception and thoughts and any kind of reactions or any kind of like feelings towards the WNBA? Have you heard of it? Have you seen any of the teams? Are you like, what's your thoughts on the women's basketball league?
So I will like admit, like I'm not like I don't think I'm as involved with like the WNBA as I am like the NBA, which I'm not already too involved, but I think like like Kayshawn said, like they're phenomenal players. Like their abilities are amazing, and I think that's in its own like as a sport should be admired, right? I did watch like a game, but I don't know much about them. But I do think that it's unfortunate that I think I will say like it's unfortunate, especially when we talk about like the wage difference, and I think I have heard a lot of conversations about how like these women are being paid a lot less than the men. And I will say, I do understand that it's on a smaller scale, but they're still very talented women. And I do think that this not only happens, obviously, as we know in basketball, but happens in real life. Like, women can be doing the same profession as a man and will be getting paid less than. And so I do think that that's something that should be talked about more, should be acknowledged more. And I'm glad that these women are standing for that fight because I do know a lot of them. And that's honestly in I think almost every sport that women are like trying to fight for equal pay. I do think more people should watch the WNBA. I do think I should watch more of it. But yeah, like overall, I guess that'd be like my only thought about it is that I've heard a lot of conversations about like the wage difference and how like I don't think that's always necessarily fair, so.
On a small tangent, Keishawn, I don't know if you know either, but England actually they passed that where the English national women's and men's team are now going to be paid the same wage.
Yeah, I saw that.
Which is really cool
because awesome,
I know USA, the US women, which are obviously one of the greatest soccer teams ever to exist, tried that fight legally and they didn't make it because they so
I mean, they had to fight tooth and nail to try to get equal pay, and they're like, no, sorry, women. No. I'm like, you're representing the country. Like, I don't get where the disconnect is.
It's not even like representing the country either. It's like dominating the sport. Yeah. It's like at this rate, and like you were over here watching U.S. men and Bobby Wood not know how to kick his own feet, and then you got
Michael Bradley.
Yeah, for real. And then you got the women scoring goals from half field. They're putting up basketball numbers in a soccer game. It's like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
I know we didn't plan to have this conversation, but talking about gravitating an audience and which outlets could possibly bring in the most, would you guys say the same idea of making the players more personable and marketable, adapt the same over to the WNBA? Do you think that's a proper way business wise for them to really grow their product? Because even though it's unfair, etc., the NBA is a huge global product, and the WNBA is still on the rising. So you think that's maybe something that translates over? Are you as interested in, some of the women's stories, etc.? Because there's some stories left and right. There's people playing pregnant. There's people, going through personal things. There's people, who are in the social justice fight. There's people who are on rookie deals. There's people up and coming. Like, there's a lot of interesting stories in the WNBA as well.
Yeah, I mean, in the Wubble, you got multiple.
The Wubble.
Yeah,
the Wubble.
they call it WNBA bubble, the Wubble. You got many women down there raising children and playing basketball games every other day. So, I mean, to me, you should just invest in the women because that's good business. Like, bottom line, if you just think about it pure numbers wise, that's good business. That's half the population right there, literally. Like, across the world, if you put money into them, more people will come. Like, just throwing them, okay, we can break you off this, here, and that. That shows how much you care, and that in turn shows people, I shouldn't care that much either. But if you putting your money where your mouth is, and people are saying, no, this is something you should be taking seriously, these women are great, then people will stand behind that. It's like, okay, if you believe in them, I should too. I already watched the NBA. All it is basketball moved over to, it's just a different gender. It's like, so and women's college basketball gets a lot of watching in the country. I don't know why the NBA doesn't get the same, or WNBA doesn't get the same, when half the league is just UConn alums. I mean, you would think people would translate that, but in the way UConn puts money into their women's team and focuses on them, they're always packed out. They're sold out every game. So it's like you see the commitment, and if everyone else is making that commitment, it shows that, oh, well, I should do the same thing. So to me, you just got to put the money there.
It's true.
I think that that's a tricky question because, and I hate to be, I don't want to say it applies only to men, but it doesn't apply to women. But I will say I don't know how, I can't imagine how women would feel about that, about people being more interested in their personal lives than their like sports abilities, because I do feel like, for example, the other day I was like watching an interview and it was Scarlett Johansson and remind me his name, the guy that played Captain America.
Chris Evans.
Yeah, so they were doing like just like I guess like a panel kind of thing, and like every time that they would ask him a question, it was like specifically about like his like ability. Like for example, it'd be like, oh, like how many times did you train for this like role, or you know, things like that. But then when they asked her a question, it was things like what did you wear underneath your costume, or like you know, like things like that. And so at one point she was like, why am I getting these questions? Like why am I not getting the same questions that you're asking him, like about my physical abilities, like how much times I trained and like what did I do to train, like. So I think that that would be tricky, because I wonder how these women would feel about like being asked, or people being more consumed about like them as like mothers, or them as like women rather than them as players, because I think women are trying so hard to be like just acknowledged by their abilities, like their sports abilities. So I wonder if it would kind of bother them for people to be more interested in like their personal lives than their actual sports, than like the sport that they play.
You see a lot of that with women too. They focus more on their sex appeal than the actual gameplay, which is how like a Skylar Diggins became like a big name and such. People were like, oh, she's so fine, and you know that kind of like takes hold. A recent example is Taya Cooper, plays for the Sparks now. She people found out who she was. She's like, oh, she's fine, not even like noticing her play or anything like that. And she wrote that to the point where she's getting Drake merch now.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like they. So I would like for them to tend to stay out of that. Just watch the hoops. And then everything else can be an added bonus, you know. But it shouldn't be the first thing. It should be, oh, she fine, da 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 da. It should be, oh, she could hoop, and she fine. You know?
That's a plus.
That's true, yeah. So maybe like starting with like first them having viewers for their games, you know, like maybe matching the same numbers, and then from there, then who knows, like right, like you know, if people are interested in their lives, then that can come second.
It's a tough thing to grow a sport, you know. And I think like overall, I don't know, just like spitballing, I just don't think that necessarily like you know sports are like a women's entertainment. Like I think there's like a large gap in or disparity in like audiences versus male size and like women's size, and I don't know, I guess like there's just like this huge just issue with like a lot of men just watching women's sports. I don't understand it. I watch women's soccer. I like women's basketball, like Keishawn was saying. I can't say I'm a diehard fan just because I feel like I'm over consumed by the NBA. I like watching too many games, and then outside of that, I like watching other kind of TV. So I don't even watch football. I hardly watch soccer anymore. So it's like I feel like there's a lot to put on the plate. That's the only reason why I don't watch. But I watch the playoffs, and they're intensely like you know, they're intense competition. And I just feel like there's just like I don't know what the word is to it, but just like a mindset where it's like, oh, just because like women are playing, I don't feel like it's going to be good enough.
Yeah.
Which is just like absurd, because you know, gambling wise, the gamblers love the WNBA because it's always either favorable or close knit, where a lot of the I guess odds are good enough to be bet on. You know, basketball fans, like Keishawn said, are huge on the college basketball level, where women's college basketball is super entertaining, sometimes even better than the men's. And then, you know, at the professional level, they have good talents and huge talented teams that have been combined throughout the WNBA. And a lot of the talented players play basketball year round. So it's like you follow that. And as just a sports fan, that doesn't make any sense to not like that league. So I don't know.
Yeah.
To me, no player should have to go overseas to make money playing basketball when you have a perfectly good league here. They should be able to make enough here that they don't have to.
Did you know that? The fact is that the best players in the WNBA, once their season wraps up, they go overseas to Europe or etc. and play over there as well.
Oh wow.
To make good enough money.
Because they get paid more over there.
They actually do get paid more over there.
Wow.
But
the
then
WNBA is just a side job.
The combined salaries is what makes them, you know, high paid players. Or in their regard. I mean, in the retrospect of men, they wouldn't really be considered high paid athletes, but the WNBA is kind of like a humbling, like I want to play in America, I want to play hometown, I want to play against competition in front of people we know. Other than that, it's not really lucrative for them to be here.
Wow.
Right.
So majority of the time, like, you know, at the end of the season in the WNBA, if someone's looking, you know, not to be championship bound, they'll rest to be able to be rested to go and play overseas.
Wow.
Yeah.
Where their bread is really buttered.
Yeah.
Equal pay.
Right.
On the way. I'm gonna get you a hoodie too. Those hoodies are fresh.
All right, Steph. You know, before we get you out of here,
Mm-hmm.
it's still the playoffs, so we need your finals predictions.
Like of who's gonna win?
Yep.
Well, given that my favorite team is Boston, are they still in the running?
Yeah, there's a game 7 tonight.
So if they have
If
to
they
win this.
if they win this game, they go to the next round, and
Okay.
then they go to the finals after that round.
Okay, so I'm gonna be a loyal fan and I'm gonna say Boston all the way.
Okay. Hey, that works. You wouldn't be the first one to say that on this pod.
There you go. They ain't gonna be the last either. So before we close up our interview, you know, talking media, I've been like trying to chime her up to just name drop what she's got going on, but you know, her project's in the works, but quarantine has manifested you and a couple of your friends to kind of produce, you know, some up and coming content. Talk to us about how you feel about building some content and, you know, utilizing this quarantine and utilizing, you know, your thoughts and your skill set to kind of just build this up. And I don't know if you want to talk about it or not, or
Yeah, I mean, so to give like a little bit of background, it's me and like 3 of my best friends, and so we have been friends like since high school. But we're all kind of like newly graduated, and we all just kind of like, you know, obviously went through all the process like during COVID, and just have been like, you know, definitely like transitioning back home and all the things that come with that. But we realized that, you know, within all these months, we have like one thing in common has been like, you know, meeting up with one another, and has been, you know, being a shoulder to cry on, or someone just to talk to, and just to like get through like some of the tough moments that like just like that's going on right now. But we kind of decided like, you know, what was one thing that we wanted to like do together consistently, and like, you know, maybe make something of it. And so we realized we're like, consider ourselves like professional brunchers. So we're actually like working on like a brunch page for like Connecticut. Like, so it's basically like just like a page that we'll put out, and like we'll kind of like go to different spots, and we'll like try out brunch, and like we'll like, you know, tell our honest opinions about it, and like we'll rate like the atmosphere, like the food, like overall experience, like the drinks. But really, you know, even more to that, like even more than offering people like a way to just find like a good brunch spot, also just, you know, we want to empower like women to just like, you know, get together with like your girls, and like, you know, go out and like, you know, talk about like your issues, and like have fun, and like just like have like a set group of girls, you know, like have a support system, because I think as women, like we need that. So that's coming. Like we're working on like, you know, the behind the scenes right now, but it's gonna be called Brunch Babes. So stay tuned to that. But yeah, we're excited.
and to all you guys out there to follow, because guys doing brunch is fine too.
Yes. We want all the guys to
I
do
think
brunch.
brunch is elite, universal. The spirit brunch
Oh.
gives you is a little different.
Absolutely. It's nothing like being day drunk on a Sunday or a Saturday.
You ever been to brunch for football or a Sunday sport? Man,
It's a good time.
it's a good time.
Overall, it's
Brunch is a good time.
for anyone. So, but yeah, so then, you know, you can go on the page and you can see which spot you want to try out.
Okay, hey, you can be looking out for that. Brunch Babes.
Brunch Babes on IG.
Brunch Babes.
It's coming soon. It's cool to see, you know, how many different outlets people have found during quarantine, because, you know, it's been a time to be inside. It's been a time to be secluded from kind of what life used to be. And, you know, we have this, and obviously we were, you know, chalking up before quarantine, but now that it's kind of put us in a position where we had a little more time on our hands, this has been birthed, and, you know, you have your, you know, media coming about, and I feel like I've seen a bunch of people do a different either small business or media page or etc. And, you know, shout out to everybody through these dark, you know, crazy times, finding inspiration or finding positivity or being creative. You know, I really like seeing it. I reach out to as many people as possible saying, thanks for the support, or, keep doing what you got to do, because it's a tough time and it could get the best of you. If it's not one thing, it's the other. If it's not on the news or in the health or in the political sphere or the physical sphere, or whatever you got going on, I know a bunch of people are having a tough time. So, shout out to you if you're finding the time to build something new or get better at what you're doing.
Yeah, I think it's awesome that people are like, just like, being able to use this time and not just, just use it like being productive, like, and I think like, for example, you guys like putting this out has been awesome. I'm super proud of you guys.
Thank you.
We'll have the brunch babes on one day.
Thank
you. Do a brunch and basketball
That'd
chat.
Be good. We can chat about basketball over brunch.
We'll brunch on the pod.
Yes, that sounds good to me. I'll have to come to Connecticut.
Yeah.
We'll wait.
Back. Quick tangent before we go. I was looking at my phone the other day and I sent Danny a picture, but this time last year is when we all went to, what was that, a lake?
Lake, yeah, it was a lake.
The lake.
I can't believe it's been a year.
Yeah, that flew by. That was some good times. That's a story for another pod, though.
Yeah.
We can talk about
fights, love, friends, drinks,
water. I mean, it was
water.
It was water. It was a day, though. I can tell you that. But yeah, man.
You gotta come visit soon.
Oh yeah, I'll be there soon,
man. Next week. What's up?
Next week?
All right, you can think about it. I didn't mean to get rejected like that.
So I think, is that a wrap on the episode?
I think so.
Okay.
On the interview, we appreciate it. We thank you for participating in the giveaway. Congrats on the $50. I know you enjoyed that a lot.
Thank you.
This was fun.
Thanks, guys. It was so nice being here.
All right.